Welcome, latest episode of Talking Season. I'm your host, Ryan McNeil, and I'm pleased to be joined by Virginia Cavaliers outfielder, Christian Hlinka. Christian, thank you for your time today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on here, Ryan. I appreciate it, and I'm super excited to be able to just, share some of my experiences. And if, this touches one person, then it's doing the job. So thank you.
First question, a little light one for you, I think. How and when did you fall in love with baseball?
I don't even know if I fully remember when exactly that was. I mean, you hear it all the time, guys who've been playing, at the collegiate level or the professional level. It's like, I started when I was 6 or, right when I started walking. And honestly, I mean, that very well could have been when I picked up a bat or a ball. I'm not sure. I remember my dad always saying, there'd be a tee and a bat, and I just picked it up left-handed. And he's like, I'm not switching that. Left-handed hitters are kind of a commodity, in the game. And so he's like, I'm not switching that. And then from there, it kind of just, snowballed into where we're at now. So
obviously baseball is your passion. What are some things away from the baseball field that you are passionate about as well?
One of the big things for me, honestly, especially like being able to use the platform that, I've gotten the opportunity to be able to have in my life is giving back to the community. I mean, I've always said that in numerous ways. And it's very easy to say, oh, that's just like, just what everyone wants to hear, right? Oh, you care about the community, giving back, so to speak. For me though, that definitely hits different. Just first of all, being able to play at UVA is an amazing opportunity. So being able to give back to the community in any way is awesome. In the team, we've done community service projects as a team, and then being able to also kind of go off on my own and do some things. We had helped some local little leagues around the area, around the Charlottesville and Albemarle County area. Rebuild some fields. That was my freshman year. We did that. Rebuild some fields and fix them up for the local kids so they can get out and play, and play the game that we all love. And then also some of the things that I had done was helping the homeless community and the homeless shelter actually in this area. I got some really close, actually really big fans of the university or of UVA baseball and who I go to church with. And they have there's a homeless shelter that they help out with and the outreach there. So I mean, like I said, that's definitely one of the big things I love to do. Be able to just give back, just because the opportunities that I've had, they feel it's just a blessing. So I feel like the least thing I can do. And then outside of that, I mean, I love to get out and golf a little. Get out and hang with the friends. I mean, Virginia's awesome with the wineries and the hiking. I mean, beautiful scenery, and really good things to do. On just to kind of chill and kick the feet up a little bit also.
This could be a trickier question. Along the lines of what we just talked about, I think, who are some people who have helped you reach this point? So you mentioned the very first question, your dad, not switching over to be a left-hander. So clearly he's had some kind of role in your baseball career. Is it a coach? Is it your dad? Who's someone you kind of want to give a shout out to for helping guide you in your baseball career so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's two people that come to mind kind of right off the bat when you ask that. And one's my dad. I mean, the hundreds, I don't even know how many hours just spending in the cages, before we ended up getting a cage in the backyard, we drive across, I'm from New Jersey. So we drive across the Delaware River into PA is like 5 or 10 minute drive. There's a park over there and we would go hit, I mean, every single day, just going over there and hit. And I mean, he always said that he was an Iron Mike basically because he was an Iron Mike basically because he just threw BP nonstop, and it wasn't even just to me. It was when my little brother was playing and when I was playing the little league, like he would throw BP to everybody. So I don't know what I would do without my dad. And I'm so incredibly grateful just for the stuff that he had done and, putting up with some of my BS in the cages. If I wasn't hitting that well, I'd be throwing bats or breaking bats or whatever, and he was putting up with all of it. And then the second person is actually my 15U club ball coach, Travis Anderson. I mean, one of the best dudes I've ever met. Really, really good dude. He actually played pro ball for a little bit, played for the Somerset Patriots, the independent league. And he's just been a staple at Diamond Nation, which is where I played, club ball growing up. And I mean, the stuff I learned from him and the skills that he gave me and just taught me how to be like a better person in general through the game was unbelievable. And so I'm super grateful, to both of them for where have I gotten so far.
While I was doing some research for this chat today, I was amazed that over this last 4 years, I guess it's your 5th year at Virginia, the highs and the lows you've had while at Virginia. When you have chances to reflect, whether it's traveling to games, whether it's whatever quiet time, hiking in Virginia, What are some of the highlights so far from your time at the University of Virginia?
That's an awesome question too, and there's so many things I can list off, honestly. Um, I mean, I
Playoffs
guess
last year? Because you did well in the playoffs.
I was gonna say, I was first and foremost, I'd probably have to say going to Omaha. That was an unbelievable experience, and honestly, for like the experience that I've had, my freshman year, we came in, we were the first, the first, I guess, team in 17 years, I think it was, that didn't make the playoff. They didn't make a regional for UVA. So that was a huge blow, and that really stunk to be that team that, like, hey, we're in here and we're the ones that ended that streak, so to speak. That was really tough, trying to just, figure out our identity, figure out how to bounce back from that. And then to go full circle and, finish up last year with ending up in Omaha and being one of the last, I think, like 4 or 5 teams left there. I mean, unbelievable experience. It was super, super surreal. And I mean, it's something I'll never forget. The other thing, honestly, from last season also that really pops in my mind is senior day. So senior game, there ended up being an article written on this. A really sad story. One of my really good friends grew up playing baseball with him from home. He was playing at the Sales. He was in a fatal car accident last year. I think it was like in March, February or March. So like literally just before the season ended up getting underway, and that was really tough. I mean, losing him and it was a difficult time. And the senior game, we were playing Wake Forest, and we needed a sweep of this series. We needed to sweep either Wake Forest or BC to, really cement ourselves into the postseason picture. And it was Sunday. It was a Sunday game, 1:00. It was senior day. I had my friend who passed away. His name was Sean Hanzarek. They had arm sleeves at home made up for him, and it was a blue arm sleeve, and it had his initials and then his number 23 on it. And I was wearing that arm sleeve. I got the opportunity to get into the game a little bit later. Was playing in the outfield, and then had a couple of at bats. And I remember before the at bat came up in the bottom of the 9th inning, I remember thinking to myself, like, it was just a crazy out of body experience. It was like I knew something crazy was going to happen. I could just feel it up there, and I ended up getting up in the bottom of the 9th with a guy on first base, and the game was tied up 5-5, I think, and ended up going to a 3-2 count and belted a double in the gap. And the guy from first ended up scoring, walked it off for a huge win. And that was just, and I'm, just having my teammates out there with me. And then, like I said, to have Sean, on my right arm. And I mean, you literally can't, I don't know, you can't make it up or script it any better, and that just summarizes the game of baseball right there. And, every time I think about it, I put a huge smile on my face.
Of course, it was a full count.
Yeah, exactly. Full count, 3-2. The guy was going. I will preface it though by saying I missed 2 bunts though to get him over into scoring position early on. So it was a 2-0 count. I missed 2 bunts and ended up going 2-2. Worked it to 3-2, and then the rest is history. But yeah, you just can't script it any better.
When I was doing my research, I couldn't get a grasp. I couldn't make the numbers work in my head, because you're having a phenomenal junior season. You had 4 dingers in 11 games and only 25 at-bats. So how sweet was that groove for that period of time? And what happened that there was only 11 games? Did you get an injury, or what happened that junior season that limited you to 11 games and 25 ABs?
Yeah, so junior year, like, had some frustrations, in my first couple of years, and then junior year, got that opportunity and just ended up running with it. I mean, like you said, just tore it up. I mean, was having so much fun. The team, I mean, we were unbelievable. Like, everyone was tearing it up, hitting bombs left and right and winning big games, and we were just having such a good time. And what ended up messing that up was COVID. That was the COVID year.
Oh, I should have put that together. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So yeah, we were, and like I mean, granted, it's completely out of my control, completely out of our team's control. And I mean, we always said, like, oh, we're winning, we're gonna repeat. We were going to Omaha last year, winning it, and then we were, obviously this past year, we were in Omaha again, and we had everything was clicking early on, and we were on our way to Pitt, and we stopped at like a rest area, I think in Western Maryland, and that's we were in some restaurants eating, and they had the games on the TV, or they had ESPN on the TV, and then we started seeing the NBA season drop in, college basketball season drop in, MLB talking about shutting down, and we were like, wow, this could actually be the end of it. And then our AD called the coach, and we ended up sitting at that rest area for about 3 or 4 hours because we weren't sure what was going to happen. And AD called the coach, said come home, and 2 days later we were packing our bags and going home already. So you know, it was crazy. I mean, just put a huge hiccup in everything. And, you know, it was definitely, you know, stunk to have that happen. And, you know, and then summer ball got all screwed. So, you know, baseball is, you know, it's all about, you know, having the hot hand and stuff. So kind of, you know, it was tough losing that aspect of it, you know, just from our team and, you know, as a, you know, individual doing well. But, you know, like it is what it is. And, you know, everything happens for a reason. And I truly do believe that. So.
One of the focuses for this show, talking with Dreamfield athletes, is talking about adversity. I would love to hear you share a time you dealt with adversity. It could be this COVID. It could have been losing your friend. Unfortunately, I think you got a couple of things to pick from. So how has adversity impacted you? And then on a positive note, how has that adversity helped you grow on or off the field?
So yeah, I mean, I already listed a few things that were, you know, definitely difficult for every, you know, well, COVID difficult for everybody. You know, losing my close friend was very challenging also. And before, you know, coming on and talking to you, I was actually thinking about, you know, just 'cause I saw like the mental health aspect of it and, you know, opening up about that sort of stuff. And I'll go a completely different route, honestly. I don't know if you've, you know, heard this one yet, but so I actually, my path at UVA, I came to UVA a full year early. So I enlisted, I started playing and was a student as a 17-year-old kid. Still supposed to be in high school technically.
So you left during your junior year of high school and came.
Correct. I came a full year early to UVA. Yep. So I should have been a senior in high school. So yeah, I was here on a visit over spring break. I think it might have been my sophomore junior year. It was my junior year of high school. Yep. And you know, I was in the dugout watching the pregame stuff and joking around with the coaches like, oh man, I'd love to be out there right now, getting those reps and stuff like that. And you know, they turn to look at me and they're like, you know, I think we can actually make that happen. And so what ended up, you know, transpiring and what we ended up figuring out was like, so Adam Haven Smith, they both went 7 and 8. Two lefty bats, you know, outfielder, first base, kind of, you know, corner fielding positions. Both of them were leaving. You know, they had a decent amount of guys, you know, expected to get drafted and that sort of thing. So like, listen, we'd love to bring, you know, a big lefty hitter into the lineup again, you know, kind of get you here a little bit early. So we started, you know, looking to see if I would be able to make it work on the UVA end and on my high school end. And I mean, everything ended up working out. So, you know, I found out, or we literally planned or talked about this in, I think, March of my junior year and ended up coming in August of the same year. So it was a crazy turn of events. You know, I was, like I said, up until a couple months, you know, I was expecting to go back for a senior year of high school, you know, kind of just cruise through, you know, play basketball, baseball, be with my friends and, you know, be home for another year before, you know, starting the next chapter of my life. And that all got uprooted very quickly. And the reason why I'm using this, you know, instance to answer that question is because it was an extremely difficult transition for me. And honestly, I've never really talked about this, you know, and I knew that we had, you know, some counseling and, you know, some psychological services, you know, people to talk to for athletes. And I never utilized that because, you know, growing up and like being in the sports world and, you know, being a guy, it's like you got to be tough, you know, if you talk about that sort of stuff or that sort of stuff bothers you, you're soft, you know, and it ends up, you know, affecting you in other ways. And I mean, that's just always, you know, kind of how I've always been not necessarily raised or taught, but just the mentality that has been, you know, playing sports growing up. So I was like, I'm just gonna have to swallow this and you know get through it. And the reason why it was so difficult for me was because I'm really close to my family. You know, I'm like I said, I was expecting to be home for another year, my senior year, and you know, kind of losing all that. I was like, just completely in a new environment. You know, 17-year-old kid stepping onto, you know, grounds at UVA, playing against, you know, 22, 23-year-old grown men in college ball. I got close with my original class that I was supposed to come in with. And, you know, I didn't really know any of these new guys that I was joining. So a completely, you know, new and, you know, I guess daunting and scary experience. So that was very difficult, you know, just kind of overcoming all that sort of stuff, finding my place here, you know, being away from home for the first time, managing a crazy schedule between class, you know, pretty much all morning and then practice from about, you know, 1 to 4 or 5 with a lift in there and then dinner and studying and then just, you know, repeat, you know, rinse and repeat. So that was, you know, like I said, like I keep saying, I mean, that was really tough for me. And that's always kind of stuck with me. And people ask, like, if you could do it, you know, over again, would you do the same thing? And honestly, for how difficult it was, I would do the same thing because if I was sitting at home and looking at, you know, I think Jake McCarthy and Cam Simmons both ended up getting hurt, which were two like big outfield stars. I would have been sitting at home, shooting myself in the foot. Like I could have been playing at UVA, you know, as a 17, 18-year-old kid because of all these injuries and the opportunity would have came and I didn't take it, you know? So like definitely wouldn't change it. But it just, it was tough, but made me mature very, very quickly. Made me figure a lot of things out, figure out, who I am, a big, identity thing. And like I said, the people I got to meet and the experience I got to have from doing that, wouldn't trade them for the world, but that was definitely tough.
You mentioned your faith earlier and being a Christian. I live in Toronto. I was just in Houston, Texas this past weekend to buy a house. One of the things that I'm in my 40s now, I have a little bit more knowledge than you did when you were 17. One of the things that I knew is I need to get connected to a church to have that kind of community. I'm curious, did a team chaplain, was it a fellow brother in Christ on the team? Was it a church you ended up going to? How did your faith, how did some fellow Christians, how did they kind of help you on that tough year?
Yeah, that's a great point, and that is definitely a big aspect of it. There was one teammate, Drew Blakely. We played together, I think, for 2 years, and then he ended up transferring over to Richmond, and he tore it up over there. He was very religious, kind of like the point guy in terms of, so like at UVA we have Athletes in Action, which is basically like FCA, like fellow Christian, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So we have Athletes in Action here, and I got very heavily involved in that. And then just going to the Catholic church I go to down the road. And I ended up I've become very close with a few of the priests there, and just getting involved in both of those communities, and like AIA, like the leadership that we have there. They're all, younger guys or younger people, and kind of understand what we're going through. They were all college athletes at one point, and being able to kind of like open up to them and understanding, like I said earlier, I believe everything happens for a reason, and it was all God's plan, and I mean, that's what it comes down to. And that's what I ended up really realizing, I guess, talking to these people and really getting, really like just kind of sitting back and letting my faith kind of lead the way, and that giving me some answers, which helped me big time cope with that sort of thing, and figure out like, hey, why is this so difficult? Like, why is all this happening? And this is the reason why. It's all for the best. And like I said, I mean, wouldn't change it for the world. I'm super grateful for the opportunities that I've had, and the person that I am. So it was just tough to see in the moment, but in hindsight, it's easy to say that.
I got a question for you, and I'm excited to ask, but I first have to ask, this is your COVID senior season you're currently about to start. Is that correct? You're playing.
Yeah. So the crazy thing is, like, so I guess this could be like another like difficult thing too, and a whole nother conversation to kind of start getting into. I mean, it could be for a different day or whatever, but last season I had a handful of injuries. I was,
Gotcha.
ended up playing well and then had some injuries. And um there were two that were like pretty bad. One, we were against UNC, and I was sliding to second base, ended up taking a knee to the forehead from the shortstop, who's actually one of my old teammates growing up in Jersey. And I was not completely out, just out cold, laying on the field at second base, just full out. And so I had a really, I mean, I don't remember anything from that game. Like, apparently I kept asking my teammates the same question probably 300 or 400 times on the bus. I literally, the part I remember is waking up at about 8 or 9 o'clock at night on the bus ride home, pitch blackout, no idea where I was. Like, I didn't know if I had got any of my stuff from the hotel, didn't know where my phone, like nothing. That was an insane experience. And then I actually ended up, we were doing an inter squad right before the BC series, so the last series of the season, and I actually ended up getting smoked in the face with a pitch.
That's a
And
nice one.
yeah, there's a nice little scar right there. So I ended up needing 30 stitches in my lip. They had to reconstruct my muscles because I bit clean through my lip, so there was a huge hole in it. So I had to reconstruct my muscles. They had to reconstruct, my lip, and kind of tie all that back together. And so, like, I was on, like, that was the thing. I had an amazing 4 years, and so I was trying to figure out like just kind of the path that I was going to end up taking. And then, with those injuries and kind of like looking at, considering some other stuff, I ended up, deciding not to play this year. So I'm like, I didn't take my fifth year, like this year with that, with all that stuff going on. And like I said, the injuries and the the stuff that kind of had happened along those lines. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. But
So then on a good note, you seem, I'm assuming you're fully healthy. You're in a great spot mentally, locked in. How pumped are you for this final season of college baseball?
oh my gosh, I mean, I am, yeah, just beyond excited. I mean, I can't wait to watch, just to see what unfolds, just to see what happens, especially coming off like a hot year last year. And, finally, like I said, starting out I mean, really just like, being losers, right? We didn't do what we had to do. And being able to like kind of bring that full swing into like, winning and coming off of that. Super pumped just to see what happens. Super pumped to see honestly how everything shakes up, because this COVID stuff is throwing everyone in for a loop, right? I mean, you got guys that are 5th and 6th years, still playing. You got some guys that are, really young, like they still have 3 more years of eligibility left, but they're getting drafted. You got guys transferring and going all over the place. So, I mean, I don't think the game's ever been more exciting. And I think there's an awesome fan base for it. I mean, out in Omaha, we had, I think, 25,000 people at every game, which is just unbelievable experience. So very excited to kind of see where everything goes and how it ends up playing out.
So you have a few more months of being a college student, being a college baseball player. Graduation, leaving college is kind of looming in the distance there. Well, the near distance. What are some of your goals? What are some of your dreams for when you do graduate, when you do leave UVA this summer? Are you hoping to get drafted? Are you going to chase that baseball dream as long as you can in the minor leagues? I'm not sure what you're studying a lot at UVA. What are your plans to use that degree? Basically, with graduation kind of looming, I know you're locked into the season, but what are some of your dreams and goals for when you leave UVA in a few months?
Yeah, that's a real thing, right? You got to start thinking about what the future holds and stuff. And, I had always said that like my goal when I originally started getting recruited, in high school for college baseball, is I wanted to use baseball to get into a really good academic school, and save money, through scholarship or, whatever it might be. And so, I mean, baseball, like I said, I've always, especially when you're younger, I mean, you love the sport. Once the season comes around, you see baseball on TV, just ready to get after it. And then, you live, sleep, and eat baseball in college. So just been doing that nonstop. And I mean, absolutely love it. Like I said, incredibly grateful for all the people I've met and the opportunities I've gotten. But also for me, it's kind of been a bigger picture thing. Like if the baseball thing, ended up working out, then, couldn't ask for anything more, like unbelievable opportunities and stuff like that. But I've also been, just preparing myself and kind of like looking on to see what else I can do outside of baseball. And one of the things that I've always really been drawn to is I would really love to go to law school at some point in the next couple of years. And I'd really love to go into the military and go to the JAG Corps, apply to the JAG Corps after law school, or, I guess, my second year of law school was when you do it. But that's always been a really, really big thing to me, kind of. I mean, baseball, like our fall conditioning was always insane, and I love doing that. I love working out. I love, doing all that sort of stuff and challenging my body. But I've always wanted to do something that kind of felt bigger than myself. And, like I've always been into the whole giving back thing and, doing something different, something that not necessarily everybody can do, and something that feels like, hey, like I'm making a difference, at least in somebody's life. And that's, I think, why I've always been kind of drawn to doing something along those lines and really seeing how far I can push myself, but then also, just being proud of like the guy that I am and the things that I can do for other people out there. And I think that's, one way that'd be really cool to do, and, kind of see where it takes us from there.
I apologize, and I'm going to play the uneducated Canadian role. So how do those two things kind of connect? Is it you're on law school and then you're doing the other thing second year so that you can serve in a judiciary role within the Army or the Navy, or
right?
How does that kind of connect? I apologize.
Yeah, no problem at all. I know I wasn't very clear on explaining it. Yeah, so you just apply to law schools normally, right? And you take the LSAT, apply to law schools. Once you get in, you're just there as like a normal law student. And so your second year into your third year is when you start applying to law firms, and you try to find a job after you get out. So instead of applying to law firms, you apply to the JAG Corps, whether it be in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marine Corps, whatever, one of the branches. And so then you wait and see, obviously, if you get accepted into there. And then if you do get accepted, you finish your third year of law school, and that summer, you end up going to OCS, which is Officer Candidacy School. And then you kind of get caught up in a very short amount of time on, everything that goes on in the military and being a military officer. And then, like, once you get done with that, then you're commissioned and you end up becoming, so a JAG is
Judge Advocate General's Corps.
Yes. Yep. Judge Advocate General. And you're basically just a military lawyer. And, you're either like, you could be if you're in the Navy, for example, you could be the commander or the admiral's right-hand man in terms of like foreign policy, or like, if like you're in the Middle East doing something, or, in like the Mediterranean, like, you're going to be the policy guy for, foreign affairs. Or, you could be on a base as, a litigator. And if, stuff happens on the base, right? There's fights, there's stealing, drug problem, whatever it might be, and you're the guy who represents some of the some of the guys there. So there's different routes that you can do with it, and I think that stuff's super interesting. My undergrad degree was in public policy and leadership, so kind of a public policy kind of translates to law a little bit, a lot of memo writing and research and that sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know, it's always caught my eye. Honestly, one of my favorite movies is A Few Good Men, with Tom Cruise in it, which is, that is definitely not how it, how being a JAG necessarily plays out all the time, but really cool movie. And I think that'd be, a cool way to make an impact in, like I said, someone's life out there.
Christian, thank you for your time today. I had a blast chatting with you. I hope you have an amazing senior season and enjoy the process of going through to become a JAG and everything else post UVA that the world has to offer you.
Ryan, thank you so much for this opportunity. And, I really appreciate talking to you, and hope we can stay in touch. Thanks again, man.